All right, so Fred VanVleet getting injured is devastating and definitely does hurt their chances of winning a championship this year. I wasn't going to be picking them, but I feel like we can all agree they were in that conversation. I've been comparing this team, this Rockets team, to the 2019 Raptors. A team that was very good, very deep, but still needed a Herculean effort from Kawhi Leonard to win it all. And I've been questioning, can Kevin Durant do that at this age? So I already wasn't a true believer in them, but I think where they really miss Fred VanVleet, two areas, right? But the most important one to me is leadership. Because you think about that 2019 Raptors team, now they had more guys that you would consider leaders in like Marc Gasol, Danny Green, maybe even Serge Ibaka as a veteran leader, but Kyle Lowry was the leader of that team. And I think it's very similar here in Houston, where Kawhi or Kevin Durant would be the Kawhi and Fred VanVleet would be the Kyle Lowry. And I don't look at Kevin Durant as someone that's going to lead this team, because Kevin Durant has told us himself that he doesn't want to be the leader. Now, that was a long time ago, but I think it still applies. I think Kevin Durant would just want to get buckets and call it a day. Similar to Kawhi Leonard, a big reason I'm not a believer in the Clippers is because Kawhi isn't going to lead the team. So I believe the leadership aspect is where they're going to miss Fred the most, and then also the volume three-point shooting. If you look at last year, their volume three-point shooters were Dillon Brooks, Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet. Now all of them are gone. And you replace that with one of the greatest shooters of all time in Kevin Durant, except for Kevin Durant notoriously does not like to be a volume three-point shooter. So on the front end, it is a very negative thing that happened here. But there's a couple reasons why it makes me optimistic, maybe not toward this year, but the next coming years, assuming Kevin Durant stays on the team. He has not signed an extension yet. He's going to be a free agent after this year. Let's see how that gets resolved, right? But let's assume he's going to be there at least 2 years. We all know the Rockets hitting their ceiling is predicated on Amin Thompson reaching his potential. Now with this injury, he's going to be the starting point guard on day one. Again, maybe not a positive for this upcoming year, but it might be. What if he's immediately one of the best point guards in the NBA this year? Something that we wouldn't have really got a chance to see if Fred VanVleet was there. I think that's a real possibility. There's a real chance that what happened now is your second best player gets the ball more than he ever would have before. And I'm not saying he is their second best player, but I'm saying if Freddie was there, I feel like Fred would have the ball more, and I feel like Şengün would have the ball more. Now, if Amin Thompson is going to be initiating the offense, I think that raises the ceiling on a play-to-play basis. Now, I understand how good Freddie is. I understand they're going to be missing his three-point shooting. Another thing this does, in my opinion, is it kind of forces Kevin Durant to shoot the ball, because Freddie was going to be that outlet for Kevin Durant. For Kevin Durant operating in the mid-post, Fred's going to spot up 3-4 feet behind the three-point line, give him that space. Now there's not really that space. So now we might need you, Kevin Durant, to be spacing for Amin Thompson to go to work. Now, we all know Kevin Durant doesn't want to shoot threes. If you guys watched that podcast this summer with him and Steve Nash and LeBron, he's talking about, I don't need to shoot more threes. Everyone around me needs to shoot more threes, right? That's how he sees the game. But we can all look at this roster and say, if there's no Fred VanVleet, doesn't it make sense for Kevin Durant to up his three-point volume, especially when you have this generational athlete at the one? Don't you need to space the floor for him a little bit and get easier shots for you? Freddie was that floor spacer that allowed Şengün to go to work, allowed Amin Thompson to go to work. Now Kevin Durant has to take on that responsibility as well. I'm not saying just be a corner sitter, but he's going to have to shoot the ball. Last year, the Rockets took 35.8 threes a game as a team. Jalen Green, Fred VanVleet, and Dillon Brooks accounted for 22.1 of those. All those guys are gone. Kevin Durant has never taken 7 threes per game. Maybe I'm foolish for thinking it might change, but this is the situation where it should change. His career high in three-point attempts per game was the 2015-16 season, which happens to be the best version of Russell Westbrook he ever played with. I don't think that's a coincidence. And I'm not saying Amin Thompson is going to be Russ, but he's going to be someone getting to the lane, creating opportunities that Kevin Durant just shoot the three. It's going to be there. So Amin Thompson at the one, I feel like is going to force KD to be on the perimeter more, and I think that's a positive instead of Kevin Durant trying to create in the middle of the court with no space. Of course he can do it, but Amin Thompson on ball makes Kevin Durant's life easier off ball, whereas having Freddie on the court would help Kevin Durant a lot more on ball. Another way this could be spun into a positive, it could also be spun into a negative if it goes poorly, but getting a better assessment of Reed Sheppard as a player. And what I mean by going poorly, if he is struggling, maybe you feel inclined to trade him to try and win in this Kevin Durant window, then you might look stupid down the line. But you do get an opportunity to see more of him, to see what lineups he fits in. Maybe he spends a lot of time with Kevin Durant to give him that outlet of having that other shooter on the court. When KD's in the post, you want to have shooters on the court, so maybe that's Reed Sheppard time. I don't know, I'm not really sure how I feel about Reed Sheppard at this point. He was drafted as an elite shooter, shot under 34% from three. Obviously, just 1 year, but usually elite shooters don't look that bad shooting the ball. I'm not going to hold him to that though. But there's also another guy they drafted to be an elite shooter, and that's Jabari Smith Jr. And he's one of the more intriguing players for me all summer because you look at this team, Steven Adams, Clint Capella, Şengün, Kevin Durant, Tari Eason, all guys that play the 5 or 4. But now with this Fred VanVleet injury, it wouldn't really seem like it would lead to Jabari Smith Jr. getting more minutes, but I think it actually will because Reed Sheppard, again, maybe he's just amazing and he has to play. But if he's just an average backup point guard, which is fine, right? That would be fine for them this year. That would be important for them this year, but you would still be sacrificing a bit defensively. But if you can get Jabari on the court more now with Fred VanVleet out because Amin Thompson's going to be the one, and now you need more shooting on the court, I feel like that's going to open up more lineups for Jabari at the 4. Jabari at the 4, KD at the 3, and maybe Dorian Finney-Smith at the 2. Lineups I don't think we would have seen a lot if Fred VanVleet was healthy because Freddie was going to be at the 1, obviously. Amin Thompson was going to be at the 2 or the 3, and KD would have to be at the 4. Now KD can slide down to the 3 and add another shooter in Jabari at the 4. Not only add another shooter, but add more defensive versatility and more people that can protect KD on that side of the court. Now I know KD is still a decent defender, but if I'm running the team, I don't want KD having 4 responsibilities on defense. I want KD getting buckets, and putting Jabari in that lineup with him allows KD to slide down and just focus on getting buckets. And if you're going to say, oh, KD can't guard threes, okay, well, you got Dorian Finney-Smith and Amin Thompson who can guard a plethora of different options. So the other guy would probably be Tari Eason, the better defender, more versatile defender, but not the offensive player of Jabari. In theory, right? Because Jabari still is only shooting 34% from 3 in his career. But I think the Fred VanVleet lineup or injury opens up more lineups for Jabari to get minutes because they need more shooting on the court without sacrificing defense by putting in Reed Sheppard. And who knows, we might even get lineups with Jabari at the 5, Tari Eason at the 4, KD at the 3, or vice versa, whatever one you want to consider there. Just lineups and moves I don't think we would have seen if Fred VanVleet was there. The versatility defensively of Amin Thompson, Dorian Finney-Smith, Jabari, and Tari Eason around Kevin Durant is a lot you can do, and you couldn't do that necessarily always having to play Fred and Şengün. I know Fred is a good defender, but he's not, he's not the guys we're talking about, the impact we're talking about, the block shots, you get what I'm saying, the size. And like I said, ultimately for this upcoming year, it is probably a bad thing. Probably. Unless Amin Thompson is just all-star, all-NBA level as a point guard this year, which is a real possibility that we wouldn't have got to see if this didn't happen. And I know I mentioned the idea of them trading Reed Sheppard. I don't think they would do that unless they just really want to move on from him. And the sooner you trade him, the better, right? If you don't believe in him, the sooner you trade him, the more people are trading for the idea of him and less the player he actually is today. So that's a possibility. I don't think they would though. I don't think they're going to trade the $25 million salary of Fred VanVleet. Maybe they would if it's that desperate, but I don't think it will be that desperate. I think they're going to be a good team no matter what. But they do have Steven Adams and Clint Capella on this team. I would be shocked if both of them finished the year on this team. So if they got to ship one of them out to get some shooting in there at the guard position, I could see that happening. Overall, I'm iffy on it. I want to say I view them as a lesser team now because of the leadership aspect, but in a weird way, I do believe their ceiling is higher because there's less of a cap on the possessions Amin Thompson can take up. Same thing with Şengün. There's more possessions for Şengün. Maybe it doesn't go the way I'm thinking, but I'm thinking there's going to be more opportunities for Jabari now. Maybe Reed Shepherd at the end of this year is just a better player than Fred VanVleet. So as much as I understand it, as much as I believe it hurts them this year, I believe their floor is lower, but I think their ceiling is actually higher. Maybe I'm crazy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Please like, comment, subscribe. It will mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm out. Peace.